Averroism is a school of Islamic philosophy that arose from the influence of the 12th century Al-Andalus Muslim philosopher Averroës, who worked on reconciling Aristotelianism with Islam. Alternatively, the term Averroism may refer to the application of these ideas by 13th-century scholastic philosophers in the Latin, Christian and Jewish intellectual traditions, such as Siger of Brabant, Boetius of Dacia and Maimonides. The term was used by the theologian Thomas Aquinas in a restricted sense to mean monopsychism and radical Aristotelianism. His work and commentaries on Aristotle were responsible for the development of scholasticism, a school of thought of Christianity which examined Christian doctrines through reasoning and intellectual analysis. Scholasticism marked the golden age of philosophy in medieval Europe. Definition: Averroës at the time of Dante Alighieri was probably the most widely condemned thinker in the medieval Christian world. Averroism became virtually synonymous with atheism in the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance. As an historiographical category, it was first developed by Ernest Renan in Averroës et l'Averroisme. Later historians applied the name to significant uses and expressions of elements of Averroës doctrines and to the exegetical tradition of Aristotle, by Jewish and Christian thinkers as it had come down through the Latin and Hebrew traditions. Key positions. The main ideas of the earlier philosophical concept of Averroism, found in Averroës' commentaries to Aristotle, were: there is one truth, but there are two ways to reach it, through philosophy and through religion. The world is eternal. The soul is divided into two parts, one individual, and one divine. The individual soul is not eternal. All humans at the basic level share one and the same intellect. Resurrection of the dead. Christianity and Averroism. The standpoints listed above resulted in two condemnations in 1270 and 1277 by Bishop Étienne Tempier of the Roman Catholic Church. Tempier specified 219 different unacceptable Averroist theses. It has been pointed out that Tempier's main accusations are almost identical to those brought by Al-Ghazali against philosophers in general in his Incoherence of the Philosophers, which Averroës had tried to demonstrate to be unjustified in the incoherence of the incoherence. To resolve the problem, Siger of Brabant claimed that there existed a double truth, a factual or hard truth that is reached through science and philosophy, and a religious truth that is reached through religion. This idea differed from that of Averroës. He taught that there is only one truth, but reached in two different ways, not two truths. He did, however, believe that Scripture sometimes uses metaphorical language, but that those without the philosophical training to appreciate the true meaning of the passages in question were obliged to believe the literal meaning. The later philosophical concept of Averroism, along with the thesis proclaimed by William of Ockham, was the idea that the philosophical and religious worlds are separate entities. However, upon scrutinizing the 219 theses condemned by Tempier, it was obvious that not many of them originated in Averroës. Radical Aristotelianism and heterodox Aristotelianism were the terms commonly used for a while to refer to the actual philosophical movement started by Siger and Boetius and differentiate it from Averroism. Nowadays most scholars just call it Averroism as well. Thomas Aquinas specifically attacked the doctrine of monopsychism and panpsychism in his book De Unitate Intellectus contra Averroistis. In this context, the term Averroism is used correctly. Although condemned in 1277, many Averroistic theses survived to the 16th century and can be found in the philosophies of Giordano Bruno, Pico della Mirandola, and Cesare Cremonini. These theses talk about the superiority of philosophers to the common people and the relation between the intellect and human dignity. Islam and Averroism. There was no formal school or movement of Rushdiya in the Islamic tradition. However, according to Anka von Kuelgegin's study of modern Arab nationalist discourse, Averroës has been the central and symbolic figure in arguments over the decline and revitalization of Islamic society. This discourse is operating within or descending from the framework developed by the 19th-century French thinker Ernest Renan, whose depiction of Averroës, Averroism, Islam and medieval Renaissance reintroduced the topic of the Islamic tradition's contributions to the Western world. Nevertheless, there have been periodic calls to resurrect Averroism per se. The most notable of these calls was from the Moroccan philosopher Muhammad Abd al-Jabri. Judaism and Averroism. Baruch Spinoza was also notably influenced by Averroism, his panentheism flowing from Averroistic monopsychism, as was Spinoza's belief in the higher state of the philosophers and tendencies toward secularism. Arguably, Spinoza and Averroism went on to influence Jewish conservatism and Reconstructionism.